the photographer for OB Photographs. And I'm like a one-woman production team. So I conceptualize, edit, photograph. I make my own outfits. I make my own backdrops. I make my own props for portraits that I make specifically for people. You know, like I'll see a person and I'll make it specifically for them. I lost my studio a couple years ago, so I haven't been able to do that. You know, and then with COVID, right when I got enough money to get a studio, the pandemic started. So, you know, I'm not trying to make any large moves now. You know, but so right now I'm really focusing on. I'm trying to do like fitness stuff now, which is interesting because I still photograph myself. I still, you know, have photo shoots for myself and everything, but now it's more geared towards a lifestyle type of thing.
So what got you started into the fitness journey?
Well, I was stuck at home. So like that first month, I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I was one of the people that was staying inside. So after a whole month inside the house, you know, I was like, okay, I need to get out, anything to get out. So I just started going to the park and exercising. And I was just doing that every day, that it just kind of became a part of my life. And it started opening up a lot of opportunities. Like a lot of people started hitting me up for fitness related things, fitness related shoots, fitness plans, etc. And now it's just kind of like evolving into its own thing, you know? So I think for this year, for me as a creative, I'm really just focusing on myself, like getting myself right. I had like a 10-year plan, and I was on year 7, and I thought I had everything. I was like slowly going up, you know, getting published and meeting a lot of people and everything. And now I don't even know if I still want to do the same thing. So I'm using this entire year to really figure that out. Like, okay, I know I want to do art, but what does that mean for me? You know, like what now?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do fashion anymore. You know, I don't like the fashion industry, if I'm being really honest. I don't want to do videos anymore. You know, I'm not really into that anymore. So it's like every creative has a bunch of deaths and rebirths. And so I think that's what's happening for me.
I think, well, 2 points. Working on yourself or working on ourselves is extremely important. You know, I think COVID was extremely terrible and really bad when it happened to us, but it made a lot of us just sit back and think and
sit
still and focus within ourselves, you know, because we're so used to this wake wash work routine. And it's extremely we don't really get time to like just focus on ourselves and our personal growth as artists or people in general. So I believe in order to produce great art, we have to take breaks, take time to relax and self-reflect, and, you know, just take in everything around us in order to produce better work as artists.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially because I don't know, I mean, as far as every artist I know, we're very hard on ourselves. So, and we all do something that takes so much from us and doesn't give a lot back, you know? So it's like, you have to replenish, you know, you have to restore, you have to figure out who you are, you know, repeatedly, because who you are as an artist is constantly evolving, you know? So it's like, that's what I feel is happening. I feel like I don't know what it is. I mean, I'm in a constant state of like hope and hoping for the best, you know. I have no idea, but I'm saying yes, you know. I'm not overthinking it, because it's like there's way too much going on, and there's way too much stimulation going on. It's like everywhere you look, there's something, you know. So the stillness has to be within me now, and that's pretty much my largest priority and concern at the moment, which is still art. If you know, if I'm being honest, there's something very beautiful and tragic about being a human being and being self-aware, you know, and So it's like, you know, having to grow in all of that stuff and having the willpower to grow. I think it's something that when I start creating again for myself, I can't wait to see, you know, like I'm really excited to meet the woman that I'm turning into.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself. Where are you from and how was your childhood growing up?
I'm from Brooklyn. I mean, I spent a lot of time in the United Kingdom as well as a child. My father's English. My mom is the native people from Puerto Rico. They're called Taino. And my dad is Cuban and Jamaican. So I'm Caribbean, you know, but we've been here a while. I'm 5 generations here. So in New York, mind you. I have great memories as a child. When I was younger, like around 2, I had a shaman had to come and do like a ceremony for me because I used to have these crazy like nightmares. And my abuela says it was my past lives like coming, and I was just reliving them. So I would wake up screaming, and every day it was like a new nightmare. And imagine a 2 or 3-year-old like having these, you know, fears, you know. And I'm not watching scary movies and things like that. So spirituality has always been present, you know, in my life. And my mom was always really supportive. She was a single mother, so she saw that I had like a bright light and a rebellious streak. So the only way that she could kind of like live with that is by embracing like who I was, which might have been hard for her because I like got mohawks. I was very rebellious. I think that when I try to describe my childhood, like my upbringing, it's like I was raised by a Disney princess that beat me. Like, like I still got spankings, you know? Like I still got a whooping if I did something bad, but she was like the sweetest and most supportive woman, you know? And I mean, now I have 2 little sisters. I don't have any kids yet, but they make me want to have kids, you know? There's something so amazing about a child being excited about life every single day, like no matter what. The moment they wake up, it's like, wow, everything, you know? And so I really enjoy that. And that's pretty much it. I wouldn't say that I had like a difficult life, at least in comparison to others, but I will say like it took a lot of identity, like reinventions for me to get to where I am. Like I've been through a couple different phases, you know, trying to figure out who I am and where I fit into this world, you know, because even like about like all the knowledge I have from my tribe was passed down. It's not really, there's not a lot of information about my tribe because it was almost extinct, you know. So it's like dealing with that kind of inner, who can you be mad at, you know, like where do I channel that anger? And, you know, growing up in the diaspora and trying to figure that out and navigate it, you know, it's definitely, I see it in a lot of, you know, American, like Black people. It's just lost, you know, like what is your identity, or at least your cultural identity? What is it, you know? So it's like, I feel like where the direction I'm heading, wherever I end up, I definitely want to create my own network of people where we feel at home. You know, people in the collective, in the diaspora, and creatives in the diaspora who don't have the resources, you know, and the money and the timeline. You know, a lot of people here are first generation from the Caribbean. Like you don't have money, you know, you have to build that up. So I want to create a world where that's ours. You know, I don't want to fit into a white world anymore. I want our own galaxy, our own solar system, you know, and we can obviously interchange and connect and everything's connected, but we have to have our own. You know, we're trying to fit into a box that was never made for us in the first place.
I definitely agree. The thing about
you're super talented. So I know you understand, like, you gotta be frustrated because you see the type of people that are like making money. And like
Yeah.
you see, I mean, no shade on Photoshop or anything like that, but it's like there is a beauty to not having a Photoshopped picture,
Mm.
raw pictures. But sorry, I interrupted you.
Now, I was about to say the thing about culture is, even though we try to relate with our culture that was taken away from us, still subconsciously is there, in the rhythm in which we walk and in which we talk and how we communicate with one another. Where I'm from in DC, we have a music called go-go, where it's basically percussion, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like a reflection of African music,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the blacks and African Americans in DC don't see themselves as African or from the continent, but
Mm-hmm.
just the movement and the way we present ourselves to the world is a reflection of the continent. Is I don't know, is the way, even the way we produce art,
Mm-hmm.
without even thinking about it. It's like our culture, our history, our you know previous religious beliefs are influenced in our art in
Mm-hmm.
many different ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, it really just comes back down to, like I was saying earlier, like being self-aware,
Mm,
and that's like the gift and the curse of it. Because I mean, I kind of envy people who aren't, who just like are oblivious to how they affect everything else in their life, and
mm,
in the world. Um, but when you are self-aware, you can tap in, like there's little tiny secret compartments in your brain that you start activating and you start thinking about. And it's an incredible process to see. My favorite thing to watch happen is like somebody who was super blocked and super closed off, and then you could tell when it kind of clicks, and then they get
mm-hmm,
into like the conspiracy theories, and then they turn into like a hotep, and then it was like and then then they'll calm down, and realize like, okay, wait, I could be like this and still be like balanced.
mm-hmm,
I don't
mm-hmm,
have to be enraged all the time. um it's human, like it's kind of like no other species is having an experience like this. And I
mm.
don't know whether or not to think of that as a positive or a negative, I guess it just is. But what other sentient being is living, honestly?
Mm,
So
mm. Quick question: does your culture and your history, is that influenced in your art anyway?
yeah, definitely. In a bunch of different ways, like for one major thing is I prefer to shoot women of color who have never been photographed before,
Mm,
and who, like, have actually maybe even not confident in front of the camera. Because culturally, women of color are, either we're sexualized or we don't exist. Like, that's really
mm,
not, we're not respected, you know. And it's very difficult. It's something I've been sexualized since I was like in the sixth grade.
mm,
It's something that's super cultural. Um, and I mean, like, I try to, with at least my own self portraits, try to at least make it apparent what I'm inspired by. Like, I've done a couple self portraits where I made a headdress and I was inspired by, tribal art from my
mm,
tribe. I've done self portraits where I was inspired by the Blaxploitation era,
mm,
So, I mean, it's the positives about trying to having being forced to find an identity, in all of this confusion, and because it was stolen from us. Um, I get to be inspired by all of it, you know, because I'm just thirsty for information and thirsty to know who I am. And I identify with African American, you know, culture, pop culture. I identify with white American culture, you know, like Caribbean culture, Native culture, like all of that. And it's kind of just morphing into its own, I guess, eclectic kind of thing, you know. I wouldn't say that I have like a style yet. I don't know if I have that. I've never been trained or anything in photography. I never went to school for it or anything. So I wouldn't even know if I'm sophisticated enough to say like if I have any cultural influences on my like style of art, you know. But I do want to say, like, whenever I think about a shoot, there is a theme. There is a reason and a purpose, you know, and it's usually to uplift and support our people, like 99% of the time.
So do you do any like specific research when you're trying to pursue these different themes in your portraits?
Absolutely. I usually create whole folders, research folders. And I'll put, you know, either things I've read in there. I have a notebook. If I can print out the images, I print them out and I'll do like a collage. And that's how or a mood board or something for my shoots. I don't know if you mess with astrology, but I have a Virgo rising. So I'm very organized in that. And I like things to be kind of planned out a little bit. I'm an overthinker. So I'm always trying to, you know, find when people see my pictures or see my paintings or anything that I do, I just want them to feel something. You know, I want them to like be like, oh, you know, and have to figure out what it is that they're feeling. If it's confusion, if it's like, you know, lust, if it's adoration, if it's any of it, you know, if it just makes them more curious to figure out more. Because my people are lost, you know, like not just Black people in general. African Americans are very lost, you know. That's, you know, we're rebuilding ourselves now, you know. So in Native culture, Native people, it's completely disenfranchised. You know, it's completely Central American natives, forget about it. What's going on in Puerto Rico right now, it's like outrageous, you know, and what's going on with South Americans and the Mexican border, all of it. Like, it's just really disgusting. So somebody has to give these people a voice. You know, my voice may not be very like, may not be reaching a lot of people just yet, but it will. I hope. But we have to have a voice. Like, who's talking for these people? It's like it's my dream to make photography books, you know, so that I can showcase that. You know, I want to do like a bunch of heritage trips and like visit my homelands and take pictures of the people. Show people, you know, what do we eat? What do we do for fun? How do other people live? You know, like, it's not this Puerto Rican kind of like fetishization it's just strange at this point. You know, like this Latin fetish thing is so weird. So I wanted there to be a little bit of grounding, you know, a little bit of balance. I don't know if that makes sense.
I definitely agree. I think we're dealing with a lot, but one of our problems are division, you know, especially between disenfranchised peoples of the world, you know, even though we're considered the minority, together we're the majority, especially when it deals with the European standard of everything in the world.
Yeah, everything.
So, and it doesn't make sense, you know. It doesn't make sense to me. A lot of the media we watch, where it's right wing, left wing, or Biden or Trump, like it's too much division, and it's just confusing everything, you know.
Yeah, it's absolutely confusing everything because like the two choices, like how I don't understand how we have these two parties and both of these men don't represent us in any
Not at
way.
all. Not at all.
Like it's just like the most like what like our politics need to look like us, like the people.
Mm,
And it's something I always think about because we just have a bunch of career politicians that of course all they care about is their money,
mm,
so it's like we have lost sight of humanity. Like the whole point of having a democracy or any kind of political party is to make decisions. You got to make decisions for us,
yeah.
like just to have a productive, growing society, evolving society, you know, it's, I feel like America is a baby as far as like civilizations go,
Mm,
is a baby, like a newborn, not even a newborn, like a toddler. The way that we act, the way that we use violence to handle all our problems and domination pretty
mm,
much to handle all our problems. Like that's such a devolved way of thinking, you know. I don't know. It's it's just crazy. It's like even the black person that they have doesn't represent us in any way either.
mm-hmm.
How
Yeah.
is that possible?
Yeah. Yeah. I think to basic human instinct as us as a collective is basically tribalism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, we all have our different cliques, we all have our different gangs, we all have our different social settings in which we prefer to be in, whether it's a group of artists or a group of athletes or whatever. And I believe that the powers that be are using that tribalism against us.
Mm-hmm.
You got disenfranchised white folks in trailer parks mad at
Yeah.
black people or native people because they feel like they don't have any jobs or they're getting their jobs taken away or something like that. And then you have black people who are disenfranchised and blaming the other side for, similar
Or
reasons,
just blaming each other,
blaming each other.
which is even more like when you really think about it. And it just, they perfected the plan. Like
Mm,
that's all I can say. White people have perfected their plan. They use Native Americans as the blueprint,
mm,
and and that they almost exterminated every tribe.
mm,
They perfected it. Then they went to slaves, and then they did it for the Jews, and now by
mm,
this point, it's perfect. Exactly how to like separate us. I mean, I remember when I used to protest heavy for in New York, because we had this thing called stop and frisk, and black
mm,
people, it was basically legal robbery and
yeah.
legal, like you could just beat people up. um, and I used to protest that. And I remember we were marching, and obviously there's, agent provocateurs. So you have like these weirdos start screaming out, fuck the police, to try to get like people riled up,
Mm-hmm.
when we
Mm-hmm.
were peaceful beforehand. Or you
Mm-hmm.
have people trying to split up the march, somehow, like somebody will just start deviating and start guiding,
Mm-hmm.
come this way, guys, this way,
Yeah.
and separating. So it's like they know exactly what they're doing. That's one thing that they did get right. It's just unfortunate that I feel like white domination is the goal when it's already here. So it's just kind of redundant.
Mm,
It's
mm,
it's one of those things where white people, not generally speaking, because there's some down with the Browns,
yeah.
we love them, but generally speaking, they they are fearful of a race war and a civil war that they themselves are starting. It's just
Mm,
like a really confusing series of events. I have so many theories, like about inbreeding, because a lot of people want to keep, at least a lot of rich white people want to keep
yeah.
their lines pure, so maybe that's why they're making such crazy decisions. Like, how can they make regular decisions? I don't know, but at the end of the day, I mean, like you're saying, like we just have to, we're the majority.
Yeah.
We gotta organize,
Yeah. We definitely do have to organize and plan for 100 years instead of just planning for tomorrow, you know, because the powers that be, those people who run things, have been planning today for the last 500, 600 years. You know what I mean? And it's definitely troubling when people go out and protest and you see a random pallet of bricks just right in the middle of the city.
God.
Or
Or you just see a building burning and shit. Like,
yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah.
And, you know, like the thing I was thinking about the other day that kind of scared me a little bit was that if Black Lives Matter was a terrorist organization, we would be doing what white people are doing. You know, like white people are trying to assassinate people and setting up bombs, and, you know, they're doing a lot of weird things. Black Lives Matter is not even close, you know, to the violence that white supremacists are exhibiting on the rest of the world. So it's just a very bizarre thing. And the only thing I can come to, the only conclusion I could come to is that white supremacy is just a lot deeper than we are ready to like accept or acknowledge.
Yeah.
It's in the hospitals, it's in the schools, it's in the police, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
You know, like it's everywhere. So it's like a reality that I feel like a lot of us have been in denial about, because, you know, we're doing good. We're good. You know, we're good Black people. There's nothing, we're not criminals. You know, we're not doing anything wrong, but that we don't have to do anything wrong.
Yeah. I mean, we just have to pay attention to history, you know. The European race and society is only 30,000 years old. It's basically the youngest humans on the planet, right? And then when we move forward in history, we see that Greece only lasted about 900 years before they started infighting. You know, it was one of the greatest civilizations. Rome only lasted about 500 years before they started infighting. You know, America is only 250 years old, you know, and it seems like America is speeding through what the Greeks and the Romans have done. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it'll destabilize sooner than we know it. And as a country, I mean, I love being here. You know, my family's from the Carolinas. It's a lot of history and culture here, but I don't see myself being here for the rest of my life in America.
Yeah, how can we?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so unforgiving, and it's a very painful like life to be in a country and try to love a country that doesn't love you. You know, and it purposefully, like I was one of my homegirls, she's from Milwaukee, and she was telling me how, I've never been there, but she was telling me how it's where she's from is one of the most segregated places in America. And they don't even hide their racism. They'll be like, you didn't get the job because your name's Keisha, like straight up. And I mean, it's 2020. Like that really, it should mean something, but it doesn't, you know? I don't know. You know, we can't solve the world's problems, but I guess that's what makes us, you know, artists do such a great service, you know? But I wish we were more appreciated. So I think that's like, I'm trying to figure out a way where like I can utilize the, you know, our capitalistic, like just utilize the way our culture is in America in a positive way, you know, like, I don't know if that makes sense, because capitalism is hard to make positive. You're just taking people's money, but any way possible. But I would like it to be in a way that doesn't harm ourselves or my image, you know. So that's why I bringing it back to the pictures, I do a lot of self-portraits and stuff, because I want to control how I am perceived, you know, and how I'm viewed. I want it to be a Black feminine voice, you know, like this is a Black feminine eye, because we have not seen that in history. You know, like there's not a lot of Black feminine photographers, you know, throughout history that have museums and stuff. Like I would like that. I would like that for us very much.
Mm. One of your portraits, I think you had like a hairpiece, or I don't know, your hair kind of looked like the sun.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of like an old deity or a fertility goddess or something like that. What was your thought process behind that?
That's exactly my thought process.
Mm.
Growing up, my family called me a daughter of Oshun because like I
Mm.
hit puberty at like 9, and they say daughters of Oshuns and sons of Oshuns exist to balance the sexual energy of the universe or the world. So we're very feminine looking or very masculine looking, you know,
Mm.
etc. So my body is very feminine. It's, you know, and I wanted to express that pretty much. Like, this is pure femininity. This is pure womanhood, you know, in its purest form. It's like, I try to, like, when I look in the mirror, is what I wanted to show people what I see. And when
Mm.
I take pictures, that's usually what I go for. Like, I try to show people how I look at the world, you know?
Mm.
And so, yeah, I looked up, I did a lot of research on fertility goddesses and fertility statues and their
Mm.
body shapes and like, you know, everything like that. I looked up tribal symbols for my tribe. And like the original concept, I had a bunch of candles around me
Mm.
and I was going to mix in, you know, Latin American Catholicism because I was kind of raised with that as well in
Mm.
my household with candles and like altars and stuff like that.
Mm.
Um, so I was trying to encompass that. I guess I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so it never went to like exactly where I wanted it to be. You
Mm.
know, I never got it to be 100%. So I just went with the original like fertility statue-esque type of thing. You
Mm.
know, I wanted it to be, if somebody had a print of this in their house, like it wanted it to give that vibe of like a Santa Maria or like a, you know, a holy, you know, picture kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, yeah. And I did blue because Ocean is blue and yellow. And so I kept that in mind.
That's dope, man. That's really dope. What are some challenges you had to overcome?
Ageism, sexism, I mean, overall bigotry, depression and mental illness, um, and just like regular, just life. You know, I'm in one of the most expensive cities in America. It's
Mm.
hard to make it here as an artist, you know, so trying to balance multiple jobs and your dreams and trying to like I said earlier, I lost my studio space, you know,
Mm.
so it's like having that kind of this that's it kind of destroyed everything. Like it kind of stopped everything. I don't have a space, you know, like okay, now I have to focus on work so I could get a space. Now I don't have time, you know, to do
Mm.
what I want to do. So it was a little bit of a cycle. So COVID low key was a little bit of a blessing.
Mm.
Low key.
Yeah. COVID was crazy. Because you know, I just had my lady and I just had our first child, and I didn't really get to.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I didn't really get to spend a lot of time with him in his first couple of months because we were both working, you know, and
Yeah.
I can really appreciate just waking up and playing with him and feeding him in the morning, and you know, watching these cartoons and stuff like that. Just watching him grow up and learn how to talk and learn how to dance and
And be a person.
yeah, and just grow into a little person, man. I really appreciate this time to take out with him, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, what are your dreams for your art?
My dreams for my art, well, it's basically a combination of mine and my lady's dreams. We would like to have a space that's a podcast studio, that's a photography studio, that's a painting studio where a lot of people can come and just create, you know, and I don't know, maybe make it into like a media type thing.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
Yeah. I don't know.
Where is she?
Oh, she's in the living room with Junior, trying to keep him quiet while we have the podcast.
Oh, tell her I said hi. I wish she was here.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. So what's challenging about being a photographer?
There's a couple things. I mean, one, the market's so oversaturated. Everybody's a photographer. Everyone, like, and especially, and then like, so then we also live in a world where everyone has a camera in their hand, you know. And so when I'm noticing now, when people get in front of my camera, it's a little bit more awkward because they're used to being in control. So, you know, like the warming up process is a little bit, it's a little bit different. You know, learning how to make people feel comfortable is different now. You know, comfort zones have changed, at least in my experience. So that's a little challenging. Money is always challenging, you know, especially now. Who wants to pay like $150, you know, for a little session? Like, you got to be understanding of people's circumstances. It's also hard to, especially like, you know, you have to, social media is a full-time job. So, you know, trying to keep up with that. And that's how you really get business now. So if you're not good at that, then, you know, goodbye business, you know, that's a little difficult too. It's a lot of things, and it's hard for this year to not be depressed. Like, this year was extremely challenging. So I feel like I'm constantly just trying to learn how to keep peace, learn how to not let things bother me, because things that happen in the world do bother me. You know, but you can't fix everything. You can't do everything. I feel like when we're talking about how like American civilization is a baby, it's like really young, we as people, like spirits, are young too. You know, we were like what, babies, not babies, but kids till you're like what, 16, 17, until you start feeling independent, you know. Some people a little longer, depending. So you only really like 12 years old if you think about how long you've actually been like on your own as a grown-up.
Yeah.
So I always feel like I'm just still a kid, you know, like I feel like I'm just doing grown-up things. I don't know.
So how do you cope with mental health?
I have a therapist that I speak to weekly, and I'm very, very pro therapy, especially for people of color. I'm always trying to get people to go to therapy. It's been so essential in my growth. I didn't realize that I needed to be able to speak to someone, have them speak back without judgment and without any kind of attachment, you know, to be able to have them organize thoughts for you. Like, I suffer from anxiety, you know, have them be able to like make sense of, why am I thinking so much? What's happening? Let's slow that down. And with depression, help me not stay there, you know. It's like, that's their job. She's a professional. Her whole point is to get me out. Get me out of my head, or get me out of that. So I think it's so essential. Like, and then like people of color, we experience trauma on a daily. Like, the things that a lot of us experience is not normal. You know, not getting a job because of your name is not normal. Like, I don't care what anybody says. Like, little things like that, microaggressions, that shit is not normal. and it's a lot of stress. And I think that certain trauma gets handed down like in your DNA and ancestral and, you know, generational curses and everything like that. So I think that it helps if everybody can just sort out why they feel angry, because we're all so angry. There's no way that you could be like a person of color in America or in the world and not be angry. No way, you know? So yeah, so I do that, and I work out a lot. Like exerting a lot of energy really helps, because I'm too tired to do anything else, you know?
Yeah. It's really hard for people of color to cope with mental stresses because we're spoon-fed trauma every day on a daily, whether it's through the music or through media or social media, you know, through the way we express ourselves through hip hop is solely based on trauma, you know.
I mean, listen to the lyrics of these rappers. Like, a lot of this shit is angry. It's in pain. Like, you know, like these people are singing their hearts out, man. Like, it's poetry. Like, you know, people want to put a stigma on rap because it's Black, because they're racist, you know. But like, the reality of it is, it's poetry. It's Shakespeare. You know, like it's crazy that people don't even see it that way. These people are, for the most part, some of it's trash, but for the most part, these people are telling stories. It's a fucking soliloquy, you know. It's amazing.
It's our oldest, well, one of our oldest forms of communication, you know. Like before religion, people would tell stories or rhyme through theater or music, you know, with cultures all over the world. And that's how we got information down to future generations, was just dropping that knowledge through song or whatever. Let's switch it up real quick. What's in your camera bag?
It's pretty light. I have my Nikon D7000 usually.
Oh, Nikon. Oh no, don't say that.
I like Nikons. I think their colors are really vibrant. And I like colors a lot. I like to paint and everything, and I like vibrant things. I do like Canons. I like other brands too. Like, I have other favorite brands. I have multiple cameras, but my camera bag is my Nikon. I have my charger, extra batteries, extra memory cards. I have my flash, external flash, and I have a something Wang diffuser, light diffuser.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Sometimes I bring a reflector with me, but other times not really.
So you prefer studio work more than going out in the field and photographing?
No, I like both. I think it just depends on like traveling and stuff like that. I don't like walking around with my equipment. If it's just my camera, that's cool. But then I need some place to leave my bag. You know, like, I don't like carrying my stuff around with me. And sometimes I have an assistant, but most times I don't, you know. I guess maybe that's a little spoiled of me, but I don't want to carry it. It's like, if I wanted to go on a hike, I'd go on a hike. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I think when I have enough money and I'm able to, which are a little bit smaller and lighter, and I think that it'll be a little bit different, you know, because then it'll just be like a purse.
Yeah. I think I'm the total opposite. I love being out in the field, man. It's like most of my photographs are out in nature, you know. I think
bugs.
Yeah.
I'm
like,
a city girl. It will ruin my day. It will ruin my day. I will not. I'll be like, I'm done. We'll do this another time. I'm done.
Oh, man. Tell us real quick about, you went to Cuba, right? And did a photo book on there.
Yeah. I'm hoping to publish it, hopefully. Cuba was really hard. It's a hard country to visit if you don't have a lot of money. Like,
Mm.
I mean, I didn't realize that because I'm spoiled, and I also didn't realize how spoiled I was until I went there. It took us like 3 days to find water because
Wow.
you're not supposed to drink the tap water. Um, and then everything's rationed. So going into stores, there's long lines. Like they don't even have anything in the stores, and if they do, they know we're American, so they're overcharging us for everything.
Mm.
Um, there's only one bank where we went in the city we went. There's the restaurants we went to, the food wasn't great because they had limited amount of ingredients, so you don't think
Mm.
about that. Like, I remember our first day, we got off the plane, we wanted to eat. The restaurant only had rice, eggs, and potatoes.
Wow.
Yeah, and we had to eat that because we didn't have anything else to eat. We were so dehydrated. When I got to the airport, everybody I saw was sick and dehydrated and starving. It was two things. Either you saw that or you saw creepy men by themselves.
Mm.
And I learned from the woman that we were staying with, we stayed with a nice Airbnb woman, and she was like a mother to us. She was teaching us because the girls I was with were even more city and spoiled than I am. And they got like all the time. And it was
Mm.
just heartbreaking. Cuba didn't treat my friends really well. And they didn't like do research and like learn the language or have like, weren't as prepared because they thinking it's Cuba, like how it's on TV. Like if you go
Mm.
to Jamaica, you don't really need to do a lot of research. You can have a good time, like it doesn't have to be an ordeal. But in Cuba, you have to kind of do a lot. There's not internet. It's a different country.
Mm.
It's communist. It's a whole different thing. They have dogs that walk around um, smelling for drugs. So there's no smoking weed. There's no like none of that. You
Wow.
know, you can't rent a car in Cuba. So you have to take cabs everywhere, and you have to tell your cab driver what time to meet you at places because people don't really have cell phones.
Mm.
So it's kind of like old school 90s type shit. Like, I'll call you on the payphone. What time do you want to meet tomorrow? 11:30? Okay, 11:30. Don't be late, like that type of thing.
Mm.
So it was just different, culture shock, and so the only way I could express that was by writing a book and making a book. And when I actually publish it, it'll be a little bit bigger because I want to have like my diary entries in there, and I want to have like coins, and I mean not real coins, but like
Mm.
little coins and little things that people can interact with the book. So
Mm.
it's actually like you can experience it for yourself. Like, what was Havana, Cuba like? Like, I want that for people, and I want to do it in a way that's interesting and that makes people appreciate art, or appreciate places that they may never be. I know people who have never left New York City, you know,
Mm.
ever. I know people who have never left, like went to Jersey, who've never been to Manhattan, which is New York, like who's never left Brooklyn. So I want people to be able to experience the world. Who knows what the world is going to be like? I don't even know, you know?
Mm.
So it's like also just kind of having my whole culture wiped out.
Mm.
It's like, I guess my way of so making sure we have something, you know,
Yeah.
it's for the culture.
I mean, it's up to document who we are. If we don't, it'll be a totally different story written by somebody that does not look like us or think like us at all.
And yeah, it'll be their observation. It won't be
Yeah.
real. It won't be authentic, you know. And
Hmm.
that's pretty much it.
Hmm. What was the photography experience like? I know the buildings were beautiful and the culture there, just like.
It, it was great. I mean, I went out, I got up early every day and I went out shooting
Mm.
alone. And then I would come back and I would do things with my group. I mean, we just made a lot of mistakes. Like, I wouldn't recommend a large group of women going alone. You know, I wouldn't recommend, it's a very machismo country, so we were getting hit on everywhere all the time, like without any kind of bashfulness or politeness about it. People licking at us and all of this stuff. It was intense. The first day, it got old the first day, like the first day. And so, you know, just different things. I mean, the buildings though, once you realize that people live in these buildings that are like falling apart, it changes a little bit. It's still beautiful in a tragic way, you know, but you like people live in that. They live in that debris. Their house is their living room, and then the wall is down. The building, yeah, like, you know, not cars. I remember we were in a car, like the car didn't even really have a seat. The guy had actually, he must have makeshifted it because it was so old. It had like two pedals. He had 2 foot pedals that he used. It was, and no interior. It was all just a metal.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I won't knock the country. I would definitely go back. I probably wouldn't go back to Havana. I would go back to where my child is from, or I would go back to Little Trinidad. It's supposed to be really nice. Because Havana is like in 42nd Street, or in DC, I bet like wherever the president, the White House is probably like disgusting. So crowded and everything. So it's just like that. I was able to make friends. I make friends really easily. So I was able to make friends with people, and this guy rode me on a bike all around. I told him I wanted to take pictures, to take me to the best places for pictures. And he took me all over the city for like $10. And I was able to I did that a couple times, and I was able to get most of the stuff in my book from that. But they only when they would see us, they would be like, Obama's, Beyonce, Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Obama's, Michelle Obama. And so my homegirl, it was her birthday. That's why we were going. And it just kind of it was coincidence that I was planning a heritage trip. She was planning a birthday trip. So I was like, okay, I'll go, you know. And I wanted to meet my people. I wanted to see what it was like, you know. So on her birthday, she's like, everybody has to get dressed up. You have to wear heels. You know, it's my birthday. I have to do this. So we do this. There's a crowd of people, like we were celebrities, waiting outside of, every day there was more and more people waiting outside of our Airbnb for us to leave. And, you know, at first, I feel like at first we were kind of just a little naive about it. Like, oh, we're American, oh. You know, but these people were clocking us, and they were watching us, and they were like waiting for us to slip up, you know, and to see if they could steal our passport or steal something from us, you know. So it's like, once you see our host or the Airbnb would just be like, welcome to Cuba, you know, like, wake up, ladies. Like, this is not the country in the movies. This is a real place. Like, this is a third world country, quote unquote, you know. But it's just not what you think. And she started telling us how, like, because she had a daughter, but we only saw her like once in a while. Her daughter was like 9 or 10. And she was like, the reason why I locked my daughter in the room is because the woman downstairs, she prostitutes her 13-year-old for tourists.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. There's a whole, and then that's when I started looking, and I have that in my photography book too. And like I said, when I publish it, I want it to be a little bigger, because I want to extend on that a little bit, on how European men and wealthy men exploit these countries for the sex industry and sex trafficking and stuff. It is a real thing, you know. And so when I went to the airport, And I'm seeing all these you either saw sick people who were miserable, who couldn't wait to get home, or you saw single men, you know, and it was very uncomfortable for me. I remember we talked to one and he was like, yeah, you know, I've been here like 6 times. Like, you get used to it. You do. And he was like giving us like recommendations. Oh, don't do that next time. Don't do this next time. And then I was like, why have you been here 6 times? And he didn't answer. He was just like, yeah, no, just business things. And I was like, even though that could be nothing, it made me think about stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it just kind of like didn't feel right because I was looking around and literally that's all you saw. Sick people in groups, single men. You know, that's it. Why are single men going to a poor country?
Yeah.
And so, you know, like Thailand and all the countries in Africa that get exploited, and, you know, India, and it just really made me like really think, you know. So all of that is in my book too. You know, I have like diary entries of how heartbroken, you know, like being disillusioned. I'm going to my home country. I'm like, okay, oh my God, my people, yes, you know, and it was heartbreaking. That is a reality and it isn't hidden, you know. So it's like that's everywhere. And then not having to not being able to flush our toilet, not being able to shower like when we want to. You're in a hot, sweaty place. You can't shower because water is rationed. They had to do a water delivery. They had to do a water delivery, and the whole block almost started rioting because they all needed water too. Why are we getting water 2 times when some people didn't get it once? You know, it was a very balanced trip, because with as much beautiful things as I experienced and I saw, and the people I met and the moments I had with these women, it was also just really heartbreaking. You know, like there was a Haitian girl with us, and when we went to dinner, they gave her a plantation cup with slaves on it.
Wow.
Yeah, for her pina colada. And it was the best pina colada we ever had. It was so balanced.
Terrible cup, but good pina colada.
It made her feel so awful. And then also on my friend's birthday, we wanted to go to any hotel and like buy a pool pass, you know, go to a pool. They denied us because white people were swimming in the pool. Like it was weird. It was a weird experience.
Yeah.
You know, and then I remember one of the bike drivers for me that was giving me, you know, my photography tour, got stopped by police for no reason. I remember that, and the cop was just starting to curse him out and yell at him and about his bike or something. And it was really intense. I was like, where? I thought I left America. It was very, you know, and he was dark skinned. The cop was not, you know, so I knew what was going on. And it was hard for me not to be like a little upset, but I had to remember I'm in, 1, a foreign country, and 2, a country that does not play that. So you fuck up in Cuba, you could go or you could stay. Like, what do you want? If you're not gonna, you can't do anything, you know? I don't know. I recommend when people go that they do everything with the hotel.
Okay.
Yeah, like go, you'll have a great time, especially if you're a man and a woman. Like I think that's such a romantic, like great trip. Don't buy anything because they're gonna overcharge you and they're probably gonna like give you something fake. So like cigars and all of that, unless it's in the actual building that like manufactures the cigars and manufactures like the Bacardi house, you know, that they make the Bacardi in, don't buy anything, you know. That's one of my, and then they also say to leave, like pack things to leave, because the country is so poor and they don't have like, you know, a lot of trade. So people leave clothes and like menstrual products and medicine and stuff that they wouldn't normally get, like vitamin, like just different things, you know, that they wouldn't get. You can't order online and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of people bring like an extra suitcase of stuff. It's like it's an interesting place to be.
I heard similar stories about Haiti. It seems like if the U.S. government doesn't really fuck with a country, that's when it's destabilized and shut off from the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and you can see it. You know, you can see it's like it's a complete I don't know I can't even think of the word right now, but it's a complete like cut off. Like they just excommunicated.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, now Trump, he reversed it so people can't go again, you know, but it's like, I think that if a couple more years of tourism and they were able to regulate it and figure out how, because how do you do an Airbnb and then regulate that? That's someone's extra source of income. You can't say, oh, all Airbnb people get $100. Like and that's what communism is. You know, all doctors make the same amount. All people get the same amount for the same job. So how do you regulate Airbnb? How do you regulate businesses that are going to get way more business from tourism? You know, art. How people who sell art, people, you know, like you can't regulate things. So it's a little of a gray area for a communist regime. You know, they say in Cuba not to try to figure it out, just enjoy it. You know, don't think about it too much. Just experience it.
Yeah. If you wasn't, well, I think we spoke about this earlier, but if you wasn't a photographer, what would you want to be?
Well, I have a plan B and a plan C. So, I mean, my plan A with photography, like I want my own media production company. I want to produce movies. I want to produce comic books and books, and you know, I want to produce media. And I want people of color to be staffed and making it. You know, that's my dream. And I want to film. I want to be the actress and a model as well. I want to be in, just like Woody Allen is in all his movies. You know, I want to be like that. And Charlie Chaplin. You know, he made his own movie studio. He was in every one of his own movies and was one of the richest people in the world. You know, like I want that. So that's plan A. So that's a very ambitious and very big dream. I believe in myself, but my plan B is to start my own weed farm.
Nice.
And try to get on that and sell hydro. And plan C is to go to school for forensic anthropology. And I want to write murder mystery novels based on the cases I help solve.
Yo, you are all over the place, aren't you?
I know.
I could dig it though. I can really appreciate that. You know, it shows that you have a spectrum of things you want to achieve, and I appreciate that.
I'm a complex, multifaceted individual, and then like to partner that in with the emotional aspect. You know, I'm a very sensitive person. So my poor boyfriend, he has his hands full. He's very and he's never bored. I will say that, never bored.
So it's almost time to wrap up. Do you have any social media or websites that people can go to and be directed to your art?
Yeah. If you go to my Instagram, which is at OB Photographs, make sure you put an S at the end. It's plural. It has my website link on it. I have a temporary site at Squarespace. So it's obphotographs.squarespace.com. I also am a brand ambassador for this fitness line called Reset Body Goals. So definitely visit that and support that. It's a Black woman that owns that, and that she's a really good friend of mine. And she is promoting body positivity. Basically just creating a lifestyle where you can be your own body goals. You're not comparing yourself to other women or other people. You're comparing yourself to the best version of yourself, you know? So that's the vibe that we're going off of. And that's Reset Body Goals and OB photographs.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Once everything settles down and we're able to, you know, go outside again, I would love to, you know, come to New York and work with you on some photo projects.
I would love that. I'm saying yes to everything. So, I mean, with taste, obviously, but for you, I would love to, and I would love to meet your wife. I would love to meet your baby.
Nice,
Like, you
nice.
know, you and I have been social media friends for a while, for like, you know, a couple years. So, and I've definitely, like I said, you're one of my favorite photographers, you
Thank
know.
you.
So
Thank you.
I respect you, and I really appreciate you letting me be on this podcast and talking.
No
Get your
problem.
off.
The feeling is mutual, and I would shoot. This won't be the only time. Pretty sure we have some great conversations in the future on this podcast as well.
I can't wait. I'll say yes, I promise.
Cool, cool, cool. So, thank you again.
Okay, have a good night.
Peace.
Bye.